Well, a lot has happened over the last few days, and I've been wanting to make this post, but I wanted to make sure I did my own looking into the situation to get a better understanding of kind of what we're dealing with right now. Because typically, I know, at least in American media, it is going to be regurgitated to you one way, and it's going to be the way that the government wants you to see it. So, with that, I do want to say my prayers are sitting with whether you're Israeli, Palestinian, or whether you're someone from a different country who's just simply caught in the crossfire in Israel right now. And you guys are just innocent people looking for peace, looking for being able to wake up in the morning without a fear of anything happening to you, being able to go outside with your families and enjoy the day, stuff like that. I pray for you genuinely because I know you guys don't want this. I know you guys want peace just as bad as the next person wants peace. And the things that are happening too there are so barbaric and grotesque and just inhumane. It's not how human beings are supposed to be treated. We're supposed to be treated equal no matter what our beliefs are. And that kind of leads me to my next point. So, for me to understand the full dichotomy of the situation, I had to dig deeper because there's been tensions since the time I've been born between Israel and Palestine. And I wanted to really understand the deep rooted nature of these things. And when I started looking into it, a lot of my questions started getting answered. Because if you look up here at this chart, it'll show you what happened over the course of time to what was Palestinian land and what turned into essentially Palestinians being cornered into little congregations of Israel. And the thing is, over that span of time, it's not like Palestinians were sitting there going like, yeah, we'll willfully like give you this land. There was a lot of tragedy that ensued from that. And we have to remember in these situations that sometimes we like to link what we see happening with the people itself versus separate that and understand that there's people who are in charge of these countries, who are making these decisions to do these things, to lead these things, whether it's a regime or whether it's Israel's plan to go take over Palestine's land. We have to understand that all of these actions are going to carry weight. And when we do things like this, we have to look back at our most recent example, in my opinion, of this happening in war fashion, which was World War II. And we have to remember that in World War II, we had arguably the worst demonstration of genocide occur in that time period. We saw the Germans completely try to extinguish the Jewish people, and it all stemmed from a religious belief, okay? But it's hard for me to sit here and when I'm analyzing the whole situation to not draw similarities in the situation because we have to understand that this deals with not just land with Israel. We have to understand how they speak about the Palestinians, how they speak about people of the Muslim faith. They are not kind to them and they haven't been kind to them. I mean, this is what they said over today in Israel. We are fighting human animals. Followed up with, we will act accordingly. Now, the reason why that alarms me when I see that is because I understand that during World War II, Germany referred to the Jewish people as, it will say up here, rats, and slave owners through history considered slaves subhuman animals. So we can start drawing that comparison there. And then you have up here what the Germans described them as subhuman. And that didn't mean they were like subhuman, that means that Germany was literally viewing the Jewish people as subhuman. So when we see these similarities starting to happen and we hear about the fact that we have people who are stuck in like one little section of the country in what used to be entirely their land, we have to take that kind of with a grain of salt. And I think more than anything, the conclusion that should be drawn in this matter is the fact that when you look at what Israel did to Palestine, and then you also look at some of the barbaric things that the regimes like Hamas have done, those all need to be condemned. None of those need to be supported. What needs to be supported are the innocent people who are losing their lives, the innocent children, the innocent women. There are people who want peace and they don't want to be dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. So this leads me to my next point, which has to deal with our current leadership in the United States. When I see things like this in the news, and I have knowledge that Joe Biden gave and unfroze $6 billion to them not too long ago, and then you take into the fact, and this is where being impartial matters in this situation, okay? You have to look even further back to when Trump held and gave very sensitive information over to Russia, okay? So when these things happen, paired with the Afghanistan pullout in 2021, where we lost tons of military grade equipment, okay? You have to look at how these things kind of fall in a chain of order, okay? They had intel, okay? And then 2021 happened, and then they got weaponry, they got equipment, okay? Then this year happens, and they finally got the funding. And Palestine, I should say Hamas, we need to make sure we separate those two, okay? Hamas has said that Iran has helped fund this. So you have to sit there and kind of at least beg the question of, did some of that 6 billion go into this? And then the fact that we're hearing that there have been Americans who have been killed, and we hear that the Hamas group is armed with US weaponry, it makes me beg the question, should we not be putting more blame on our current leadership for this? Like, are they not responsible for a lot, if not all of this blood right now? Because to me, that's what it feels like, okay? If you're giving them all of the necessary assets to go in and do that, then you are just as responsible to the situation. So I personally think every single politician that has laid a hand in the fabric that is sewn into what we see in Israel right now should be held responsible and should be held in the court of law. As for what we are seeing right now on a day-to-day basis in Israel as well, we are definitely seeing war crimes be committed right in front of our eyes. You can't be doing the things that Hamas has done to the people they have taken hostage, and Israel has completely ignored and broke international law for over decades with what they've done with the seizure of Palestine. So we need to make sure that we condemn and hold all these players that are causing this chaos in our world responsible. And I think the biggest thing more than anything goes back to what I said at the beginning is you need to not be picking sides. You need to pray for the innocent. You need to pray for the people who are wanting peace in this world. And it really starts with us as people, if I'm being honest. Like, the average person, I know, for instance, like, if they were to do a draft in this country, okay, it is going to be very hard for a lot of us to want to pick up a gun and go fight a war against people we have no animosity towards. Like, but why we don't dislike these people? This is stemmed strictly from the government, straight into our eyes. And it's up to us to really start negating all of that. Because if we don't, we're going to become part of the loop. We're never going to break the cycle. And we need to.